After decimating affordability with insane COVID spending, Democrats attempt to shovel it all right onto Trump. Let's check it out. And welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. Trump's China summit is the big story today, of course. The president landing this morning, as you likely saw, set to meet with Xi Jinping here in just about 2 hours or so. Beijing is exactly 12 hours ahead of us, so everybody in China is just waking up. The White House saying talks will focus on trade, Taiwan, but also China's ability to get the Strait of Hormuz open by flexing a little muscle on Iran, a country that China can control any way it wants because China props up the Iranian regime financially in almost every way. They buy the vast majority of Iran's oil. That is most of Iran's economy. So the conversations between the president and Xi Jinping on Iran are obviously important. The White House downplaying this, but it's important. But with all of that on the table and a lot of things happening with China and Iran and everything else, the big focus that we saw today was based solely on one Trump comment just before he took off on that flight yesterday.
To what extent are Americans' financial situation motivating you to make a deal?
Not even a little bit. The only thing that matters when I'm talking about Iran, they can't have a nuclear weapon. I don't think about Americans' financial situation.
You know exactly what they're going to do with that. Trump giving a genuine answer there, right? As he tries to dismantle the nuclear program of an Islamist regime that would potentially suicide bomb the United States and the rest of the world, he says he's not thinking about anything else other than disarming Iran, not even the financial situation of Americans, because what he's trying to achieve is life or death. But the wording and the way that he said it, of course, was just what a very desperate Democrat Party had been waiting to hear, right? Ooh, he said he doesn't care about the financial situation. Just watch. That soundbite is going to be in ads for years to come. And with that, of course, the left erupted today. A defunct, pathetic, recovering woke party with absolutely nothing to run on whatsoever, waiting for any mistake that they can exploit and try to turn it into some kind of votes, some kind of support in the next election. This is just from the last 6 or 8 hours. Take a look.
What do you make of Donald Trump saying today that he doesn't think about Americans' financial situation?
I'm sure he's very focused on his own financial situation and how he's going to enrich himself.
My constituents are paying almost $5 a gallon for gas in a war that he started that we shouldn't have started.
And how big of a factor at this point is his cognitive decline?
It's a huge factor. I mean, we're in the midst of a war. He's negotiating with China right now, and we can't be sure if he's not falling asleep in the middle of these meetings.
He's in China, and who does he take? Does he take the forgotten American? Does he take the American worker? No, he takes tech billionaires with him, and now he's talking about $1 trillion of Chinese money.
Rogan has made so much money insider trading, but yeah, he's the one that really cares. These are the same people who absolutely decimated your quality of life, your cost of living. These are the people who overcooked government spending to the point where we are all drowning and have been for years now. But now that Trump's been in office for a year, it's officially his problem now. Democrats are shifting the blame for their atrocity onto Trump, elated to have such a massive monkey off of their back, what they did to this country. Now, they expect you to believe that 2 months of $4 gas is the reason that you can't afford a house, the reason that groceries are unaffordable, the reason that everything in this country is so outrageously expensive is because we've been dealing with Iran for the last 2 months. It's so disingenuous because the average American voter isn't smart enough to realize what the Biden administration did to affordability was so lethal. People forget that. People don't understand. They don't remember. It was years ago. But what they did was so lethal that it will take probably 5 or 10 years to recover from, just like it did in the 80s. When you get into these inflation funks, it's really hard to get out. So the first chance they get, i.e. Trump's operation in Iran, they're going to take all of that baggage and a mistake that should have cost them politically for years, and they're going to dump it right on to the president. A crime committed on your ability to afford life in this country. It was a crime they committed on affordability. And they dumped it right on Trump's head. Because of course they would. Joe Scarborough pushed this nonsense all morning long. Take a listen.
Willie, come on. Like, Democrats are now going, wait, is he
saying that openly?
I mean, this is the nightmare of the American Firsters who said, oh, we don't want to get involved in worry about us here at home. And all of the people, Tulsi Gabbard, that said, he will never get you into wars. He will worry about you. He will never do this. He will worry about you. J.D. Vance, the same. You can go down the list of everybody. You can go down the list of all of the talkers that said the same thing. And he literally is saying, I'm not worried about you. I don't even think about you. I'm worried about an endless war.
They're crucifying the president for starting a, quote, endless war. If there's one thing that we are certain of, it is that this president wants this endless war over yesterday, as soon as possible. A month ago, really. Trump is so obviously not lobbied by the military-industrial complex. He's been pushed toward war for years, many different times. He's never fallen for the trap. The Pentagon clearly saw a serious nuclear threat with Iran, building a missile apparatus around it to protect its nuclear program so that it could never be dismantled again, so that we could never do anything about Iran's nuclear program like we have this past year. And because of that, Trump acted. And they probably knew it would hurt politically, but they did it anyway. And it is hurting politically. That doesn't mean it was the wrong decision. Probably means it was the right decision. But Democrats couldn't care less about any of that. All they see is politics. All they see is power. And suddenly the same people who gutted your paycheck for no reason other than their own selfishness, using COVID as an excuse to supercharge the government into a $7 trillion oversized tumor, those same people are now fighting hard to make life affordable for you because Trump doesn't care about you at all. Remember the Inflation Reduction Act? COVID was over. COVID was over. This is 2022. But they were just trying to hold on to COVID as long as they could because COVID was the greatest thing that ever happened to the U.S. government. It let it just massively expand. So they used COVID, even though COVID was over, as an excuse to dump another $2 trillion into their own pockets. Dump it all over Washington, D.C. You'll be paying for that $2 trillion for years. And here's how they sounded as they did it, as they gutted your paycheck for years to come. Look at how happy they all are with the big smiles.
We are elated. Every member of my caucus is elated. I am really confident that the Inflation Reduction Act will endure as one of the defining feats of the 21st century.
This is something very special for the American people. From the kitchen table to the Arctic Circle, their families are protected, are affected. Whether it's the cost of prescription drugs, clean air, clean water, and that's what the climate crisis legislation is about. And it reduces the national debt, and it is paid for.
And it reduces the national debt, and it cures cancer, and it's everything we could have ever wanted because we're getting rich as hell here in Washington, D.C. That's why you can't afford anything. That's the reason. Trump's operation to denuclearize Iran has cost the average American maybe a couple $100. It's true. Gas is high, and it's affecting the cost of some things, and inflation did go up in the last month. It's a couple $100 at this point. It's going to be more, but that's what it is at this point. What you just watched, that little circus, has cost you tens of thousands of dollars, every one of us. Once again, you're being gaslit within an inch of your life. Look how happy they were as Pelosi says that the Inflation Reduction Act is going to reduce the national debt. These people could not lie any better. Look at how happy they are. They only get that happy when they get rich. And when they get rich, you're losing. Look at that. I mean, they're just so excited. They lied to your face and they partied and feasted. How rich did they get off that $2 trillion Inflation Creation Act? Who knows? And here's how they sound, though, when a military operation to denuclearize a country that we've all known for decades has been a major threat to the West spikes the price of gas for just 2 months.
Donald Trump has made clear that he and the Republican Party don't give a damn about the personal finances of the American people. It's an extraordinary admission.
It's an extraordinary admission, and we're so excited to have something politically viable for the midterms because we had nothing, because we're a terrible political party. But regardless of how fake their outrage is over your cost of living, regardless of their ability to shamelessly deny what they did to affordability in this country, the truth is inflation did jump last month. The truth is gas prices are up. We're not going to deny that, and the war in Iran is the reason. It's all true. And Trump has every reason to meet with Xi Jinping tonight and push for a way to end this thing and get the Strait of Hormuz open, because China can do that. And the last thing anybody needs is the Iran operation exacerbating the extraordinary inflation assault that Democrats committed against all of us over the last 3 or 4 years. All right, let's focus in a little bit more on China. Indiana Senator Jim Banks joins us now. He sits on the Senate Armed Services Committee. Sir, good to have you on. As we watch just some video here of Trump's red carpet arrival in Beijing from earlier this morning, I know that you watch China very closely, and I want to start with this. Do you think that the president can maybe get some assistance here from China? Is there some way to leverage that to get them to help end this war and open up the Strait of Hormuz?
Well, consider that China buys 80% of the oil that Iran sends through the straits. So China is feeling the heat. President Trump has the leverage. He has the better hand as he goes into these talks. I wouldn't call them necessarily negotiations because I don't expect a deal to be made coming out of this summit in Beijing. But President Trump is going to send a tough message. Yeah. He took these CEOs with him of powerful American companies and telling China and Xi to open up China again to American businesses and stop taking advantage of the United States of America. Put America's interests first in whatever deal or talks or negotiations come out of this. So President Trump has a strong track record when it comes to China, and I expect these conversations to be productive and healthy and resume when Xi comes to the United States, hopefully later this year.
I want to preface this next one. You know, I mean, it's obvious to me that the decision that was made on Iran, while unpopular now, was a necessary decision. This is not a president that goes looking for wars to start. That's not how he operates. We've known him for a very long time. We've also known that Iran has been a bad actor for a very long time. That's why we had the Iran nuclear deal. Even Democrats at one point could admit this is a very dangerous regime. Their nuclear program needs to be dealt with. They just dealt with it in the wrong way. Knowing all of that, as we sit here now with these inflation numbers that came out this week that do not look good, you know, it's how urgent is it to get something done here, to get that strait open? Because this is going to become a political liability as we move toward the midterms.
And China can help us do that. I mean, China can put the pressure on Iran to come to the table and negotiate a deal that does what President Trump has sought from the beginning to do, to ensure that Iran never has a nuclear weapon, because we know that if they do, they will train that nuclear weapon on the United States, on Israel, and on our allies. So China has a hand to play here. They can assist in that ultimate goal. And if there's anything that comes out of these talks in Beijing, we can hope that that's what comes out of it. But you're absolutely right. I mean, President Trump is the only president in 47 years who's had the guts to do what it takes to wipe out Iran's capabilities, their munitions stockpiles, their ability to build a nuclear weapon. And we can't let up until we finish the goal. We can't let up until we accomplish what we set out to do.
Senator, you've introduced 2 bills this year, one aimed at restricting the export of the most capable U.S. AI chips to China, along with another that closes loopholes allowing the CCP to access sensitive U.S. defense research through university partnerships and research contracts. Those are very important bills as a check against China. There's reporting that alleges, I don't know that there's any truth to this, but alleges that the president is reportedly considering a deal to allow China to invest $1 trillion here in the United States, largely to build factories on American soil. There's a lot of reasons why we should be wary of that, but it also is a potential lifeline to China as its economy has weakened dramatically. That is a lot of business for China. Your thoughts on that allegation that might be happening?
Well, I don't know if that's true or not, but what I do know is that President Trump is going to pressure the Chinese to keep up their end of the deal. They always lie, steal, and cheat and get away with it. So when they say they're going to buy our soybeans from Indiana, they better keep up their end of the deal. And President Trump is the type of president who's not going to let him off the hook. If they try to cheat again, then President Trump has the leverage to make sure that there's a penalty for that. So that's where these conversations are going to lead to. There's much at stake here. There are so many important issues, whether it's the AI race or American agriculture getting a fair shake and a fair deal when it comes to trade with China. And President Trump is going to cover all of that. He has our best interest in mind. He has a strong track record when it comes to dealing with the Chinese, and I have a lot of confidence that these talks will be in our best interest, and President Trump will give us another win.
Okay. Senator Jim Banks from my home state, Indiana. Good to see you, sir. Thanks so much.
Good to see you. Thank you.
All right, Kari Lake with us now. You know, it's funny to watch the same people that just lit affordability on fire in this country, and it's going to take years to catch up with. Now they're trying to hammer Trump for being the cause of all of it because we have an operation in Iran for 2 months.
Well, a couple things. One, they don't want to talk about the big story. President Trump, huge welcome in China. He's going to do big things over there. And they think that we all have collective amnesia, but we don't. We remember when inflation was spiking day after day after day in the previous administration. Things became unaffordable. You know, they expect President Trump to come in and wave a magic wand and make the disastrous policies that put us in that hole go away. He's working very hard to do so, and I think he's done a great job. What's happening in Iran? Yes, short-term pain for long-term gain. To be taking a state sponsor of terrorism around the globe off the map, take them out of the picture, that's going to make our country safer, our world safer for generations to come. So I think most people, when they think about it, understand that. Yeah. They recognize this is a diversionary tactic by people who really caused the problem, and they're trying to say, look over here, not over here, because President Trump's about to have an incredible several days as he does some great deals with China. Had a chance to talk to him a couple nights ago, and we talked about the China trip, we talked about Cuba, and a bunch of other things. And I think this is going to be a really, really important trip.
Yeah, and we're going to follow it. Obviously, the big meeting between the two when they first meet in China in Beijing is going to be in about 2 hours from now, maybe a little less. Maybe the funniest thing, Kari, I saw this week was Democrats now slamming the Trump ballroom, saying that Trump is a terrible president for forcing Americans to pay for his White House vanity project. The ballroom was supposed to be funded by all the rich billionaires and corporations the Democrats hate so much, but they actually sued the administration and prevented that from being possible, forcing the president to now go to Congress to try and fund it with tax dollars. And by the way, the vanity project probably won't even be done until he's about done with his presidency.
It's just insane. You scratch your head and say, how do these people live with themselves when they make up these stories like this? The president was able to drum up the money, donations to make this happen. And unfortunately, as you laid it out, it's going to have to be a change because of that. Bottom line is, for generations to come, we will benefit from that ultra secure ballroom. We all saw what happened a couple of weeks ago at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. We know what happened in Butler. We are tired of watching as people try to take down our president, and we need a safe and secure place for him to hold events and for, state visits like we just had with the King of England. This is important stuff. I'm glad he's finally making these changes, not only to the White House, but across Washington, D.C., to make it more beautiful and more spectacular.
Real quick, before I let you go, we might soon be calling you Madam Ambassador. Jamaica could be the destination for your potential ambassadorship. I do want to inform you, though, that Senator Tom Tillis, never been a very popular guy among the Republican Party, says you absolutely will not get his vote. And I wanted to get your reaction to that from the North Carolina senator.
Well, I'm just very honored that the president has nominated me for this position. I'm very familiar with Jamaica, having been going there for 35 years nearly. And I love the island. I love the people. They're incredible people. And I want to make sure that we make the relationship between America and Jamaica even stronger than it already is. I'm going to work through the Senate confirmation process. I'm looking forward to talking to all the senators, including Senator Tillis, and laying out what we are going to be doing there, and more importantly, listening to what they have to say. And so I'm looking forward to going through that process. If confirmed, I promise to make America proud and work to secure and shore up a really great relationship with Jamaica.
Sounds good. Kari Lake, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right. Up next, why did Tony Fauci and the CIA have a keen interest in concealing the origins of COVID-19? A whistleblower today in front of the Senate with an incredible story to tell. That is up next. Then later in News from the Left, HBO leans into the politics of Hollywood bombshell Sydney Sweeney.
Well, you sound like a Democrat.
I'm not retarded.
Federal agencies urge every family to have an emergency radio. During any disaster, electrical power may get cut. The emergency radio gives you the vital information you need. Newsmax wants you to have the Dynamo Emergency Band Radio. It doesn't need batteries and works in any emergencies. It retails for $30. You can get it with the free offer. Call or go online and get the emergency radio today. Your life may depend on it.
Mike Hammond of Signal Relief. We've helped nearly 700,000 feel relief in their back, shoulders, and knees with our technology. But for many of us, it's our feet that hurt. And when they hurt, our walks get shorter, activities are skipped, and the moments we love start slipping away. That's why we created the Signal Step, a patent-pending insole built using the same proven technology people already trust from Signal Relief. Signal uses no drugs. There's nothing on the market like it. It's relief without the side effects. It's reusable, fits virtually into any shoe, and in a recent study, over 85% felt relief, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. So what are you waiting for? Feel relief with every step. If you're hurting, go to signalstep.com and get relief today.
In a recent TV commercial, I mentioned that my mother had switched to Pure Talk. Now people want me to prove it. So, here's Mom.
Hi, Mike.
Please tell America why you switched.
Because you said I should.
For those of you who aren't my mother, Pure Talk is offering unlimited talk, text, and unlimited data for just $34.99 a month. That's half the cost of the big guys with no contracts and no commitments.
You've always had commitment issues, haven't you, Mike?
Pure Talk, where the savings are as real as the mothers.
I am a career CIA operations officer. I'm here today to discuss the COVID cover-up. Dr. Fauci's role in the cover-up was intentional. Dr. Fauci influenced the analytical process and findings by leveraging his position. This included some of the authors of the paper, The Proximal Origin of SARS-CoV-2, the CIA and DNI analytic managers responsible for examining the origin of COVID made decisions inconsistent with the conclusions of subject matter experts consistently favoring the theory of zoonosis or natural origin.
So this was a really big deal today. CIA Special Operations Officer James Erdman there, calling out Tony Fauci earlier, testifying that Fauci influenced the CIA in the early days of the COVID pandemic to change their initial belief that the virus came from the Wuhan lab, convincing high-level proxies in the intel community to push the proximal origins assessment, which falsely concluded that COVID-19 came from nature, which is what Fauci wanted, right? Because Fauci was funding the lab where it came from. Erdman also testified that the CIA is still resistant to give up their legally required declassification of all COVID documents, which is real shady. And amid all of this, we should tell you that Democrats, not a single one, bothered to show up for any of this. Why? Because the Democrat Party is very wary of any reminder of what they did to this country during COVID and the ridiculous nonsense that they pushed and that they believed and the damage that they caused. The CIA hated this hearing today. An official statement said the proceeding amounts to nothing more than dishonest political theater masquerading as a congressional hearing, adding as the CIA has already addressed, COVID-19 most likely originated from a lab leak, and efforts to undermine that conclusion are disingenuous. Okay. The NIH director, Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, is back with us tonight. Sir, it's good to see you again. I want to start with the wording of the statement from the CIA claiming that somebody's trying to undermine the idea that COVID came from the Wuhan lab, which, by the way, is exactly what it sounds like the CIA was doing a few years ago.
Well, the CIA has finally concluded that it most likely came from a lab. So, like, the baseline is that the intelligence community in the United States is radically shifted from what was the case during the pandemic.
Right.
And what we learned today was that Tony Fauci was at the center of moving the intelligence community, misleading them toward the false conclusion that we knew for a fact that it came from a pangolin or something. And it's I don't know. Just sitting back as the NIH director now, I'm trying to envision somebody who works for me doing that, and it's just I just can't process it. Because what happened was a tremendous pandemic, in part caused by investments that Tony Fauci sponsored, and that and so, like, you can now have a motive, right? The motive is his reputation is going to be completely destroyed into history because he sponsored very dangerous experiments that very likely caused the pandemic.
And nobody knows this stuff, but as you just said, you're like the new Francis Collins, right? You're the NIH director, and you would have been Tony Fauci's boss had you had this job during that time, so you understand this better than anybody. Fauci, I mean, the DOJ is trying to go after him. I mean, that pardon from Biden that just kind of covers everything is so outrageous. He gave the same thing to his son. That's outrageous on its face. Should Tony Fauci be prosecuted for funding in a very shady way the lab that leaked a virus that killed millions of people and then attempting to cover up the evidence of that? Do you think there should be a prosecution?
You know, Rob, it's one of those things where, like, I'm in a civilian organization. I'm not part of the prosecution kind of thing. So if he broke a law, I think he should be prosecuted. That's up to the DOJ and all that.
Then I guess just speak to how vile what he did was.
Yeah, I was going to say. So, like, imagine that you've opened Pandora's box. You've decided that you're going to take this vast risk on the behalf of every single human being on Earth. And millions and millions of people die as a consequence of the risk that you took, that you sponsored. You're going to go down in history as somebody who did that, who opened Pandora's box. And then it doesn't surprise me that we hear today that he worked very hard to mislead the intelligence community, thinking that there was no problem.
Mm-hmm.
And it's he populated all of those scientific boards with the people who actually did those experiments that might have caused the pandemic. It just blows the mind. I mean, for someone like, I don't know Dr. Fauci, but I'll tell you, like, if someone like him, if he knows that he's going to go down in history as one of the people who caused such vast devastation, it's hard to, that's probably the worst sort of conviction you can have for someone like him.
He was a hero in the beginning of COVID too, and then the hero became the villain. I mean, it was really like a movie. It's surreal. That story to me, all these years later, is still just surreal. And we want to thank you for being such a great voice of reason through all of that. For all those years when you were just working at Stanford, I think, right? And now you're the head of the NIH. Well deserved. And we appreciate you coming on, Dr. J. Good to see you.
Rob, it's always good to talk with you. Thank you.
Good to see you. All right. It's high time these activist judges letting criminals roam our streets face the consequences themselves. We saw a taste of that today, and it's coming up next.
Started doing the Heimlich maneuver. That didn't work. We had people around us that were in the medical field, and they said, hey, you're doing everything right. Then people started shouting, get the life back, get the life back. Probably been a minute and a half, 2 minutes without any oxygen. He was completely gray. She put the life back right on his face, did it. He gasped for air. She did it again a few seconds later, and the grape hit the back of the mask.
And the ambulance would not have been there in time to save Jeremiah. He was gone.
Be prepared. Go to lifeback.net today.
When curiosity strikes about the everyday lives of your family, we're here with answers only your ancestors can provide. See their stories at Ancestry.
If you've lived through numerous presidents and multiple recessions, you've seen what happens to the world economy when things get rough. And if you're looking for protection for your hard-earned savings, then look no further than American Hartford Gold. Unlike stocks, crypto, real estate, gold and silver can protect you against inflation and recessions. It's a hedge against all the things you don't want to happen to your hard-earned dollars. And with American Hartford Gold, you'll get the #1 precious metals dealer in the country and their support in making sure your money is protected by gold and silver.
Makes me feel secure having that investment there because it's not fluctuating as the market is, and it's something that you can just hold on to.
In today's day and age, you want to invest in something that is real. I think everyone should pick up the phone and call American Hartford Gold.
American Hartford Gold is the trusted leader in precious metals. Our dedicated team will work closely with you to guide you through the purchase process to help secure your future. Plus, every purchase comes with a 100% satisfaction guarantee.
Owning gold gives me a sense that it's not going to just evaporate before my very eyes. I can hold it in my hand, I can touch it, I can go spend it.
I really look at American Hartford Gold in the category of a friend, somebody that I could trust and somebody that I have confidence in.
Whether you've never owned precious metals or you're an experienced buyer, American Hartford Gold's winning reputation and best-in-class customer service will keep you coming back for years. You've worked hard over a lifetime, and that money deserves the protection that you can only find in precious metals. When you call today, ask about the exclusive Freedom Package for new customers and get your free guide to buying precious metals. Call now.
As part of our special TV offer, when you call now, you can get our free guide and the Freedom Package. This includes up to $20,000 in free silver on qualifying purchases, plus free account setup, free shipping, and more. Call now. 855-313-1143. That's 855-313-1143.
We've been building chainsaws for over 100 years. Now that century of cutting comes in a mower. New blade, same bloodline. Right now, save $50 on select mowers. Steel.
He's called you a dirty cop. Why do you think he brings you up so much?
I don't know. It's the relationship he can't get over. I mean, I don't wake up in the middle of the night thinking about him, but he does thinking about me. I actually find it a little bit humorous to have this obsession by this 80-year-old man with me. The guy is not okay, our president, and for some reason I'm burrowed into his head. He's tweeting about me when I'm sound asleep or truthing about me. I don't understand it and can't explain it.
Former FBI Director James Comey currently charged for his 8647 seashell Instagram post that he totally just found when he was walking on the beach, by the way. All over the news this week, claiming that Trump is obsessed with him, while ironically talking about the president nonstop. Painting himself as an innocent victim who is merely guilty of simply criticizing Trump over the years. Just criticizing. Comey was a pivotal player in the Russia hoax, as we know. The legitimization of the now discredited Steele dossier, which was ridiculous, which everybody knew was ridiculous. Trump calls him a dirty cop who weaponized the FBI against him. Comey claims Trump is weaponizing the Justice Department back at him. Take a listen.
The process is the punishment with these characters. We always depict in our country the Lady Justice statues with blindfolds. I don't care what your politics are, you got to take a deep breath and realize we cannot be this way, where the president uses the power of criminal justice to go after people because he doesn't like what they say. That's not American.
One thing, again, to remember is James Comey's a really good actor, and he's really good at just playing the Boy Scout FBI guy that just wants to do the right thing. That's not the real James Comey. The process is the punishment was his line there. Comey would certainly know, because here's how he sounded on Biden's inauguration day. Listen to this.
It probably makes sense to impeach him, and I'm glad that happened, convict him, bar him from future service, have the prosecutors, the local prosecutors in New York, pursue him for the fraudster that he was before he ever became president, lock him up for the garden variety frauds he did there, but don't give him that center stage, that dominant role in our national life. Let him stand on the lawn at Mar-a-Lago and yell at cars in his bathrobe.
Yeah, just the good guy FBI agent, right? Elizabeth Pipko is a former RNC national spokesperson here with us on the set. Tudor Dixon, host of the Tudor Dixon podcast. Ladies, good to have you both here. Elizabeth, I want to start with your reaction to the James Comey saga, which just continues on.
It's kind of funny because you listen to him and it reminds you of every 25-year-old woman who you've ever met with who's still complaining about the boy who rejected her 10 years ago. That's what this is. This is a man who despises Donald Trump, who I guarantee you thinks about him a hell of a lot more than Donald Trump has ever thought about Comey. It's a man who is proud to have made his life miserable, and I think it's ironic that anyone, honestly, has the courage to talk about weaponization of a justice system, considering what Donald Trump went through, what his family went through, what his staff went through, and what we all watched as a country.
Right. And Tudor, the fact that Comey and Brennan are running around telling people that they are being targeted simply for criticizing Donald Trump, and they're getting away with making that claim. I mean, you remember Brennan. What he pulled to try and disrupt and try and basically destroy Trump's presidency at the very beginning of it. And he says, just because I criticized him, they're attacking me.
Well, and Comey was quite involved in that as well. I mean, you mentioned that he was involved with the Steele dossier, and let's not forget Biden's DOJ was so connected. They were in the White House having meetings about how to get Trump, and they also had meetings with Fani Willis, remember, about how to get Trump. I mean, this is the weaponization of government that has been used on the Democrat side started with Obama against Trump. It continued through Biden. I'm sure James Comey was, if not just cheering along, also behind the scenes, moving chess pieces. And let's also remember, you don't see Donald Trump arranging shells and a message for Comey on the beach and then posting it on Truth Social. When he says these things, it makes me crazy to hear him go, oh, he's obsessed with me. I'm like, who's obsessed with who? Seriously? I'm like, why are you so obsessed with him?
He just found those shells. They were just, somebody else was so obsessed with Donald Trump randomly on the beach one day that they just made this shell arrangement. I would
it's
love
like
to
Mean
find,
Girls. I'm like, why are you so obsessed with me?
If TMZ ever gets the picture of James Comey sitting there putting those stupid shells on the beach, I'm just going to lose it. I got to move on. A couple more things I want to hit here. Elizabeth, I want to talk about these activist judges, which have been such a strain on our society, such a cancer. Cambridge, Massachusetts had a 46-year-old man firing a rifle in the middle of the street. Video we've seen this week. 50 to 60 rounds, critically injuring 2 people. Tyler Brown here, just released from a psych ward days prior, has got a huge criminal history going back 20 years. In 2020, pleaded guilty after firing 13 shots at Boston police officers, and a left-wing lunatic judge sentenced him to just 5 years in prison for firing 13 shots at cops. 5 years. Local reporter goes to that judge's house to get the reaction to what he just did. This is what she says. I'm not going to comment. I have no... Elizabeth, it's high time that the people that are letting all these criminals wreak havoc in our society pay the consequences. We've seen enough.
100%. Look, it's sad because you want to laugh because it's so ridiculous, but you also want to cry because this is the erosion of our country and our legal system and everything that we once were so proud of, right? And I think when Donald Trump talks about these activist judges, it's very easy to laugh and for Democrats to say it's not happening. We just saw a judge actually apologize to the man who tried to assassinate President Trump, his entire cabinet, and a room full of journalists. They apologized to him for his treatment in prison. That is where we are in America in 2026. That only happens when you care more for being an activist for your Democrat Party than you do for the American people or the responsibility that you hold.
It's exactly right. One more Tudor here real quick. Our mayor here in New York, lovely New York, Zoran Mamdani, with his video claiming that he single-handedly brought the city's budget down, $12 billion deficit, that he took it out. The truth of the matter is, they took it down. They actually took an $8 billion bailout from Albany to get this done. They also deferred pension payments, which means we're just going to have to pay far more in the future to cover those deferred pension payments. Tudor, the fact that he's being celebrated for this is rich.
Well, he loves the rich. You would, of course, you choose that word. It only takes so long to figure out that socialism doesn't work, but he's got this great face and these cute little videos, and people like to watch what he says, and so they're being kind of duped by this for the moment, but it only lasts so long. And remember, when these guys are out there saying, we're going to tax the rich and we're going to get rid of the billionaires, they are talking about the job creators, and Republicans need to start messaging that way. They are talking about kicking job creators out of your state, out of your city, poverty, making sure that nobody has a job anymore. That is the last thing you want from these people, but they want you to work for the government. Remember, you need 5 forms of ID, but he wants you working for the government. He doesn't want the private sector to exist, and he certainly doesn't want anybody to be able to achieve any type of success. But if you're AOC, you don't think you can become a billionaire in the United States anyway. So I guess they really don't even understand economics.
Good old Mamdani, always good for a laugh. Elizabeth Pipko, Tudor Dixon, ladies, good to have you both. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Why South Carolina Republicans are so weak on redistricting. Up next.
Republicans are stronger when the Democrat Party is vibrant and viable.
When you're in the news business, it never stops. News is always breaking, and it's my job to get you the news, no spin, no BS. If you don't believe us, just watch us.
Watch Finity, weeknights, only on Newsmax.
It's 2 a.m., your fever spiked and you're miserable. Here's your options.
Urgent care, closed. ER, slammed, and you'll spend hundreds of thousands in both. Telehealth, yeah, but the pharmacies are closed.
That's the reason why we keep emergency medical kits at home.
It has doctor-prescribed medication like generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, other antibiotics and antivirals. You can treat flu, pneumonia, strep, sinus infections, UTIs, and more.
Because if you're sick in at night, traveling or stranded, you don't want options.
You want what is inside this kit. No waiting, no pharmacy, and no copays.
Just schedule a quick telehealth call.
And that's how you feel better faster and avoid serious complications.
Every family should have this kit, and here's how to order yours.
Order online in minutes and use the promo code to save $45. Your doctor-prescribed kit ships fast to your door, packed with medications to treat over 30 conditions. So when something hits, you're ready. And a wellness company telehealth doctor is always there if you need guidance.
Pop up the volume. Go ahead, crank the volume. We got you. USPS has increased daily package processing capacity by 46% in the past 5 years. And with USPS Ground Advantage, your packages stay in our secure network, dock to door, nationwide. For full visibility, near real-time tracking, affordable pricing, for peace of mind. USPS Ground Advantage.
Stop, check this out. Our most advanced performance frame, Talon, is out. It's a bestseller. We just got it back in stock, and I want to show you a little bit about it. These come with our signature lost and broken protection, and you can try them risk-free for 30 days. Check them out at ShadyRays.com.
If you want to be ready for summer, now's the time to call Sonobello. Sonobello helped me target the spots that diet and exercise never could.
Sonobello gave me my bikini body back.
At Sonobello, our expert surgeons remove stubborn fat permanently and tighten loose skin in one visit with less downtime. Every treatment plan is personalized for your body, your goals, and the results that you want to achieve.
Walking around this summer with my shirt off, it's the best decision I've ever made.
I see my spark back, and I am so glad that I went with Sonobello because they have truly changed my life.
With over 50,000 5-star reviews, Sonobello is America's #1 cosmetic surgery specialist.
I love wearing a bikini again and not having to cover up.
See what's possible for you. Schedule your free consultation today.
I got my summer body at Sonobello. Get your summer body back. Do this for you.
And our flexible payment options make it easy to get started today. Call now or go to sonobello.com for your free personalized consultation. It's your life. Live it beautifully.
Little by little, age-related macular degeneration tries to take away your vision. You're not the type to sit back and do nothing, so now's the time to take action and make a plan with your doctor that includes PreserVision. It contains the clinically proven formula recommended by the NEI to help reduce the risk of moderate to advanced AMD progression. PreserVision is backed by over 20 years of clinical studies, and it's right here in the palm of your hand.
You spent a lifetime becoming who you are. Don't let AMD take that away.
It's your vision. Take action. Choose PreserVision.
Welcome back. More Republicans, weak Republicans, bending the knee to the Democrat Party. You had 5 state Senate Republicans in the state of South Carolina, right there on your screen, rejecting the effort to redraw the state congressional map despite pressure from the president, joining Democrats in a push that stops the erasure of James Clyburn's district before the midterm elections. Senate Majority Leader Shane Massey, one of the 5, put it like this.
I don't want to be a participant in further eroding federalism. I understand what the president's issue is here. I don't disagree with that. But there are other concerns that we have to consider. Republicans are stronger when the Democrat Party is vibrant and viable. Competition makes you better, y'all.
Competition makes you better, y'all. Just a reminder, the New England map that we've showed you several times on this show, multiple states where a ton of people live, by the way. Not a Republican in sight. Congressman Ralph Norman of South Carolina, also running for governor, joins us now. Congressman, what is going on? Why is it so difficult to get some of these squishy Republicans to do stuff like this? We saw the same thing in Indiana.
Well, you've seen it in Indiana, and I tell you, the rhinos, the Republicans in name only. They campaign for less government, less taxes, less regulations, and they get in the Senate and in the House in South Carolina and vote opposite. And redistricting is a prime example of basically taking a district that should have been redrawn years ago. I called for it right after I announced my run for governor in July last year, but no, if you look at that district, it's a jigsaw puzzle, and it's not fair to the residents of District 6. And Jim Clyburn offsets every conservative vote of 7 congressmen. He votes opposite and cancels out one of our other congressmen. And it's not what the people of South Carolina are about. No. It's not conservatism, and it's wrong.
Yeah, I got a really tight show. I've blown it out, but I got 15 seconds left. You're running for governor of South Carolina. Why are you the man?
I'm the man because I'm the only one that's got a business background. I will cut taxes, I will cut regulations, and we'll definitely redistrict as well as clean up the waste, the fraud, the abuse in South Carolina.
And you can pull off a 15-second soundbite. Congressman, good to see you. Ralph Norman from South Carolina, running for governor. Thank you, sir. Next up, news from the left. After letting criminals run L.A. for years, the mayor, Karen Bass, says Spencer Pratt's new campaign ad is what's really dangerous.
As the leader of the Coalition for Student Wellbeing, I believe students must be at the table when discussing youth mental health. Alongside their parents, kids are navigating a challenging world during formative years in their lives. Major life changes, academic pressures, and financial challenges can feel overwhelming. The type of stress can look really different for each student. That's why we need a thoughtful, comprehensive solution informed by young people. Get involved today at empowerourfuturecoalition.com.
This Memorial Day, we honor the brave who stood watch over our nation's security. At PCmatic, we're proud to continue that legacy by protecting your digital world. From American homes and local businesses to our nation's government agencies, we provide the only cybersecurity that's 100% researched, developed, and supported right here in the USA. PCmatic, American made, American strong. Visit PCmatic.com today.
At Bright Star Care, our nurse-led care anticipates needs before they are voiced. We'll be there.
Don't kibble your dog.
Oh, hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, back.
But what's wrong with this? It's premium stuff.
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means it's ultra-processed at extremely high temperatures that destroy the nutrients in the food. But at Dr. Marty, we gently freeze-dry premium meats, fruits, and vegetables, locking in their nutrients.
Never kibbled.
You got it, kid, and they're gonna love it.
AI company Palantir makes critical decisions for governments around the world. In 2019, Palantir bought $50 million in gold in case of black swan events. Not surprising what followed. In 2020, a pandemic shut down the global economy. And in 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine. In 2023, we had a regional banking collapse. And in 2026, could a 1929-style market crash be the final straw? Give Patriot Gold Group a call at 888-528-4290 before it's too late. Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold and silver dealer 9 years in a row. Home of the No Fee for Life IRA. Patriot Gold Group is patriots protecting patriots. Call now, 888-528-4290.
My heart has experienced life-changing wins, losses, and countless miles. To keep living at my speed, I trust Cunol CoQ10. CoQ10 is the #1 cardiologist-recommended supplement for heart health. Cunol, the brand I trust.
Well, back time now for news from the left. Conservative actress Sydney Sweeney has become a Hollywood icon over the last couple of years, and HBO surprisingly leaning into her politics with her character on their hit show Euphoria. In this week's episode, Sweeney's character gets famous and does the podcast rounds. Listen to some of this.
I just feel like American men have been treated like second-class citizens.
Why is it that women hate men these days?
Well, in the past, men used to be hunters and gatherers and protectors, but now they're being forced to walk around on their tippy toes. I mean, it's not natural. Men should be free. They should be able to speak their mind, voice their desires.
Oh, you think they're being too restricted by society?
Like, if a man today were to say that he wants a girlfriend that can cook or clean, he might as well be screaming the N-word.
Okay.
Well, you sound like a Democrat.
I'm not retarded.
Isn't she lovely? And finally, L.A. Mayor Karen Bass, who let criminals run her city for years, says a Spencer Pratt ad is what's really dangerous.
But what's worrying me now is that his social media is now taking on a violent turn. When your messages are so hateful, or when you demonize people, then you do provoke people who are unstable, and you can jeopardize people's safety.
Get that communist the hell out of L.A. Coming up after the break, an in-depth look at the new Pope, who's already become annoyingly political.
Closed captioning is brought to you by MagnaLife Pain Relieving Foot Cream to target neuropathy symptoms.
The stabbing, burning pain in your feet is real. Here's what real customers have to say about MagnaLife Pain Relieving Foot Cream, the only thing that works for my diabetic neuropathy.
Available in foot care and diabetic aisles.
Kevin Sorbo here, and I have an important message to share. The government needs more money, your money. If you owe the IRS back taxes, they can garnish your wages and levy your bank accounts. They can even seize your retirement or take your home. Don't let the IRS target you. Call the professionals at Tax Network USA. Their tax lawyers and enrolled agents are experts in powerful programs that may even help you eliminate your tax debt.
Call for a free consultation or visit tnusa.com.
Mike Hammond of Signal Relief. We've helped nearly 700,000 feel relief in their back, shoulders, and knees with our technology. But for many of us, it's our feet that hurt. And when they hurt, our walks get shorter, activities are skipped, and the moments we love start slipping away. That's why we created the Signal Step, a patent-pending insole built using the same proven technology people already trust from Signal Relief. Signal uses no drugs. There's nothing on the market like it. It's relief without the side effects. It's reusable, fits virtually into any shoe, and in a recent study, over 85% felt relief, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. So what are you waiting for? Feel relief with every step. If you're hurting, go to signalstep.com and get relief today.
I wish I loved my smile.
I wish I could get implants.
I wish money wasn't so tight.
I wish I can justify the cost.
I wish my insurance could save me more on dental implants.
See what it can do at ClearChoice. Show us your insurance card and save $5,000 on fixed full double arch implants. That's insurance assurance on a smile that's built for life. Schedule your free consultation today.
Like a relentless weed, moderate to severe Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis symptoms can keep coming back.
Break away to what's possible with Tremfya.
The only IL-23 blocker for Crohn's and UC to offer self-administration from the start.
Tremfya can help with symptom relief as early as 4 weeks, remission at 12 weeks, 1 year, and 2 years.
Some had visible repair of their intestinal lining. Serious allergic reactions, increased risk of infections or lower ability to fight them, and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or need a vaccine. Break away with Tremfya.
Backed by over 15 years of clinical research. Ask your doctor about Tremfya today.
I'm Elmer Heinrich, at 92 years of age with my wife Shirley, who is 83. Now, both of us are still cutting a wide swath in life, all because of Immuno 150. Now, we are asking you to use Immuno 150 like we do. Give it a chance for at least 90 days so that you can see what 70 plant minerals and 80 additional nutrients can do for you.
It really is incredible.
Don't place your order until after you've watched the 3 videos on our website.
All right, finally tonight, we have had 1 year of Pope Leo, and the new Pope has already become political, as we know, weaponizing the kindness and inclusivity of the faith against the president and pushing the United States to continue to allow just any and everyone into our country, as if that makes any sense. The Pope also hit the president on Iran while ignoring the atrocities that the regime has committed against its own people and the terrorism that it has funded around the world. You had the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, actually meeting with the Pope last week at the Vatican, where they had constructive conversations amid all of this. And our president actually sent Rubio with a message to the Pope regarding Iran. This month's May edition of Newsmax magazine is titled Pope Leo, American Pontiff Reboots Catholic Church, and it is out now. And Ken Chandler is the executive editor of Newsmax magazine, joins us now. Ken, good to see you. The Pope already has become quite political and has angered a lot of the MAGA base, I think. What's your take on this month's edition of the magazine? What's your take on the Pope?
Well, my take on the Pope is that he's an enigma. I mean, Americans really don't know much about him. They don't know how or where the pontiff is leading the church. You know, the word from inside the Vatican is that Leo is well-liked, he's warm-hearted, he's got a sense of humor, but he's extremely guarded in what he says. So really, people have got no idea what direction he's going to go in. And there's a lot of unresolved issues that he's going to have to deal with, like, you know, the sexual abuse scandal is still there. There's financial corruption. There's the issue in this country of the Latin Mass, which has kind of been pushed to one side, but many American Catholics want to see it back in the center. And also the issue of persecution of Catholics in China.
Yeah, it's certainly true. And, you know, the Catholic Church, you know, is being, I think, there's a manipulation happening with the left, I think, the Western left and the Catholic Church, and this idea that we have to push all of these, you know, very obtrusive policies to the West that you know, that somehow are come out of the Bible or come out of Scripture. And I think it's just, I think it's very corrupted, that whole ideology. And when you have the Pope here making comments about immigration, you know, and you know, he's living in Vatican City, which has not taken in one migrant, as we all know, and he's living in Italy, though, which has been decimated by migration, and broader Europe that has been decimated by migration. Making those comments, also making them toward the United States, to me, that oversteps something that I don't think the Pope should be going there.
Right. Well, I think, you know, the Pope is trying to find a delicate balance here because, you know, the Catholic Church, it's the largest single Christian denomination. Its numbers are growing in America, but that's largely because of Hispanic immigration.
Yeah, that's well said. Ken Chandler, it's going to be an interesting issue. It always is. Good to see you. Thanks so much. Stay informed and empowered with Newsmax magazine, your source for independent reporting. Stories the mainstream media leaves out. You can subscribe and get four bonus gifts. We just keep adding more gifts as part of a free offer. Call or go online and check it out. Infinity is up next, and we'll see you back here tomorrow night.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.